I'm Dr. Huggins, and I'll be sharing 5 tips with you on how to be a better listener. Now, you may already feel you're a good listener, or you may feel there's room for improvement. Either way, these 5 steps will help you listen so the other person knows that's exactly what you're doing. So let's get started. First, from the shoulders down, don't move. Face the person you're speaking with. This may not always be possible, but do try. That means no texting, emailing, or multitasking while the other person is speaking. To do so puts your actions in competition with what the other person is saying, which has you delivering the message that the other person is either not as important or important at all. People tend to feel offended by this, not because they are needy or hungry for attention per se, but because the fundamental rules of person-to-person connection and community are violated, while the person is receiving a clear message of indifference. Additionally, you can't engage in verbal or nonverbal efforts to override this underlying message. Next, maintain appropriate eye contact. By that I mean don't stare, but engage in intermittent eye contact. Hold the eye contact when you say the person's name and when you state the action you want them to take. All other times, use a pen and paper to take notes along the way. That will explain your intermittent eye contact behavior. One additional note here. The use of eye contact is socially and culturally determined, so by default, be sure to adhere to the preferences and the norms of the person you're speaking with. Next, use your head nods and your vocal fillers, those mm-hms, well. Place them at the end of a person's sentences or the pauses. They act as support for what the other person is saying. This technique allows us to come across as if we are in a reciprocal relationship with the other person. We appear supportive, respectful. We also appear cooperative, non-combative. Did you know that each person has a discourse style or rhythm, a unique way of speaking with their own nuances that define that style? Your job as the listener is to ensure that you're placing your head nods and your vocal fillers in the right place in that discourse style. Here's the next one. Have no competing thoughts in your mind while the other person is speaking. Yes, this will take some discipline. Essentially, you want to refrain from constructing your rebuttals to what the person is saying, and you want to refrain from thinking about your, for example, to-do list. Instead, provide undivided attention. Have you ever been talking to someone either on the phone or face-to-face, and you get the sense that they're just not listening or paying attention to you? There's that part of the human communication process that can't quite be put into words. It's just a feeling, a sense. That sense comes by way of external distractions, but also internal distractions, our thinking mind, our thoughts, and the thoughts that obstruct the flow of communication from one person to the next. So it's important that you focus on what the person is saying rather than other things that can distract the communication process. And last, this one is very important. Do not interrupt someone when they're speaking. This behavior is one of the number one things that causes conflict and confrontation in relationships overall. It pits you against the other person, creates defensiveness and pushback to what you have to say. Allow the other person to complete their thought. It is one of the highest signs of respectfulness to another person. Interrupting someone can be considered so offensive, it's tantamount to you actually saying out loud to that person, to their face, shut up. If you were in a conversation with someone and someone said shut up to your face, how offended would you feel? Well, when we actually interrupt people in the middle of what they're saying, we're telling them to shut up to their faces. So, don't interrupt. You know, I oftentimes say that there's a difference between what we think about how we're coming across when we communicate and what's just truly happening when we are communicating. We think about how we're coming across, but then there's the other person and what they're thinking. At the end of the day, we need to be more concerned not about what we think, but about the impact of our communication and how it affects another person. Listening well, listening effectively to another human is one of the highest signs of respectfulness. The benefit to you, if you do it well, is that it builds better personal and professional relationships. So give these tips a shot and watch your relationships transform into better places. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and remember to tell a friend, iChooseToLearn.com.